section and he says, oh, where he dissing Fatso I F Bloodhound did. Again, is already like claiming credit for this, okay? So he reposted, like...
The internet is exploding. Chicago rapper Q50, notorious for his claims of having taken 9 lives, was reportedly shot in St. Louis, and his rivals are celebrating online, openly boasting about their involvement on Instagram. The details are still swirling, but the story goes that Q50 was ambushed while in a black truck with his crew, allegedly at an after-hours venue where he was booked to perform. Immediately, criticism erupted online, with many labeling Q50 foolish and reckless for even being in St. Louis. The situation is significantly more complex than a simple shooting. It's a twisted web of manufactured beef, clout chasing, and escalating tensions. The initial controversy stems from a ban imposed on Q50 by an individual known as CTS Lil Wick. The notion that someone would ban a rapper from a city carries a certain absurdity, yet the internet amplified it, turning it into a spectacle. The seeming triviality of the ban highlights a deeper, disturbing trend: how easily online attention can fuel real-world danger. This isn't about genuine grievance. It's about exploiting conflict for personal gain. Q50's management team, always moving forward AMF, has considerable ties to St. Louis, having facilitated Q50's business ventures in the area and even signing 2 female artists from St. Louis. The supposed issue with St. Louis is entirely fabricated, a deliberate construction of a conflict where none genuinely existed before. At the heart of this manufactured drama lies a connection to Chicago rapper Lil Dre. Lil Dre maintains strong relationships with individuals in both Chicago and St. Louis, including CTS Lil Wick. This connection creates a complex network of alliances and rivalries, pulling Q50 into a situation he seemingly didn't initiate. Lil Dre's associations also place him within a circle of individuals that Q50 finds undesirable, like YG Fatso, further complicating the narrative. What's particularly alarming is how readily someone like CTS Lil Wick, with no legitimate reason to be involved, seized the opportunity to inject himself into a pre-existing Chicago beef. He recognized Q50's notoriety and the potential for accruing notoriety himself. The sequence of events reveals a disturbing pattern. When online exchanges between Q50 and YG Fatso began circulating, CTS Lil Wick saw his chance. Despite having no personal connection or legitimate grievance against Q50, he inserted himself into the online feud, commenting on Q50's diss tracks. This wasn't about genuine conflict. It was a calculated maneuver for attention. The situation escalated as Lil Wick followed up this provocative action by publicly banning Q50 from St. Louis in an Instagram live video, creating a spectacle that captivated social media. Q50, initially dismissing Lil Wick's pronouncements as the ramblings of someone insignificant, was then provoked to respond, attempting to capitalize on the attention Lil Wick was receiving. Q50, feeling slighted, escalated the situation further. He seemingly wanted to demonstrate his power and disregard for Lil Wick's actions by publicly questioning St. Louis's boundaries. He wasn't genuinely believing what he was saying, but he felt compelled to retaliate against Lil Wick's actions. He amplified Lil Wick's message by characterizing St. Louis negatively, a performative act meant to flaunt his defiance. The situation then devolved into further displays of bravado and escalating threats, fueled by the constant online attention. The core issue is the realization that a rapper can instigate conflict from nothing, and these conflicts can lead to devastating consequences. It's a prime illustration of how a pursuit of online fame can create a uniquely dangerous figure within society. The entire episode reveals a disturbing lack of accountability. Lil Wick, with no blood ties or legitimate grievances against Q50, exploited the rapper's notoriety to gain attention. The ban itself was a stunt, a calculated move to garner publicity. This isn't about principles or justice. It's about a calculated attempt to hijack someone else's fame. The ease with which someone can manipulate the system, stoke conflict, and benefit from the ensuing chaos is profoundly unsettling. The focus on escalating theatrics and performative defiance overshadows any genuine concerns. Q50's boasts of having killed 9 people, while unsubstantiated.
CTS Lil Wick that apparently got him shot is one of the dumbest beefs I think I've ever heard of. And
contribute to the perception of danger and amplify the impact of his actions. It's a chaotic environment where claims of violence are met with responses that further escalate the risk. The reliance on social media for validation and power creates a feedback loop where conflict breeds conflict, and the pursuit of attention takes precedence over responsibility. It's crucial to acknowledge that many details surrounding the incident remain unconfirmed. Q50's claims regarding the 9 bodies he allegedly took are met with skepticism. Nevertheless, the people of St. Louis took his statements seriously due to his performative displays of defiance. His allegations of robbing someone from St. Louis of $60,000, amplified by constant risk displays and boasting, contributed to the heightened tension and perception of danger. The situation underscores the inherent risks associated with online posturing and the devastating consequences of a relentless pursuit of clout. The internet, that sprawling digital landscape, often functions as a distorted mirror reflecting our darkest impulses and amplifying the consequences of reckless actions. In this narrative, we're diving into the escalating conflict surrounding Q50, a figure who's carved a reputation for himself through online posturing and a relentless pursuit of clout. The story isn't merely about a disagreement. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of online validation, the fragility of reputation, and the potential for digital bravado to spill into the unforgiving reality of the physical world. Q50, known online as Bloodhound, has found himself entangled in a spiraling feud, culminating in a tense confrontation in St. Louis, a city with its own unique and often unforgiving character. The core of this situation isn't simply about diss tracks or online arguments. It's about a pattern of behavior that has drawn the attention and ire of a community, leading to a palpable sense of danger and the looming threat of physical repercussions. The reliance on social media for validation and power creates a feedback loop, where conflict breeds conflict, and the pursuit of attention takes precedence over responsibility. It's crucial to acknowledge that many details surrounding the incident remain unconfirmed. Q50's claims regarding the 9 bodies he allegedly took are met with skepticism. Nevertheless, the people of St. Louis took his statements seriously due to his performative displays of defiance. His allegations of robbing someone from St. Louis of $60,000, amplified by constant risk displays and boasting, contributed to the heightened tension and perception of danger. The situation underscores the inherent risks associated with online posturing and the devastating consequences of a relentless pursuit of clout. The escalating drama isn't simply about money or prestige. It's a reflection of a deeper societal issue, the ease with which individuals can construct and project an image of power and dominance online, irrespective of their true capabilities or character. The initial spark of the conflict appears to stem from Q50's ostentatious displays of wealth and perceived disrespect toward St. Louis. The source material indicates that the expensive watch he flaunted wasn't even from St. Louis, a detail that immediately undermined his claims of authenticity and connection to the community. His declaration that he runs St. Louis was met with widespread derision and a fierce determination to challenge his narrative. The attempts to ban him from the city proved futile, but the defiance only served to further inflame the situation. The people of St. Louis weren't willing to let his actions go unchallenged, viewing his boasts as a direct affront to their pride and identity. The escalating conflict gained momentum when Q50 continued to provoke the community. The refusal to acknowledge the gravity of his actions and the continued displays of disrespect only strengthened the resolve of his detractors. A key observation from those familiar with the situation highlights the intense frustration felt by many in St. Louis, even those associated with CTS Lil Wick. The widespread anger wasn't merely about a disagreement. It was about a perceived lack of respect and a deliberate attempt to undermine the reputation of the city. This sentiment was reinforced by the distribution of warnings, explicit messages informing Q50 that he would face consequences if he dared to return to St. Louis. The source emphasizes a fundamental truth about St. Louis, a place where a veneer of charm often...
Chicago rapper Q50, who claims that he has killed 9 people, was shot today, and his ops is already
masks an underlying toughness and an uncompromising spirit. It doesn't a city that readily accepts disrespect or tolerates arrogance. The emphasis isn't on geographical location. It's about a shared understanding of the values and expectations within the community. The criticism extended beyond the initial disrespect, highlighting the problematic nature of bragging about a chain-snatching tour, a reckless endorsement of criminal activity that further alienated him from the community. What truly escalated the danger was the implication that a conflict originating outside of St. Louis was being extended to the city, creating a broader and more volatile situation. The advice given to Q50, to direct his criticism towards a specific individual rather than the entire city, was ignored, proving to be a critical misstep. CTS Lil Jeff's response in the form of a diss track targeting Q50's deceased friend, Lil Jeff, adds another layer of complexity to the narrative. The targeting of a deceased individual is considered a particularly egregious act, transcending the boundaries of typical online feuds. The source highlights the unsettling nature of this attack, emphasizing the lack of any legitimate reason for the beef. Lil Jeff had no involvement in any of the incidents that sparked the initial conflict. This act wasn't driven by genuine grievances. It was purely a calculated attempt to garner attention and exploit the online spectacle. The characterization of Q50 as a clout-deprived rapper provides insight into the motivations behind his actions, a desperate attempt to elevate his profile through controversy and conflict. The commentary on CTS Lil Jeff further underscores the inherent dangers of online feuds and the potential for escalation. The warning against engaging with someone possessing white privilege reveals a deeper understanding of the dynamics at play, a recognition that power and influence can shield individuals from consequences, creating a dangerous imbalance in the conflict. The references to Lil Jeff's publicly available rise and fall serves as a stark reminder of the precarious nature of online fame and the potential for reputation to be shattered. Q50's subsequent response, once again targeting the entire city of St. Louis, only served to further entrench the situation. Despite initial calls for him to be more specific, his continued broad accusations fueled the anger and resentment of the community. The repeated references to the $60,000 robbery and the accompanying displays of wealth only served to reinforce the perception of arrogance and disrespect. He seemed incapable of recognizing the severity of his actions and the potential consequences of his words. The decision to publicly reference the St. Louis residents as ops was a critical error in judgment. It formalized the conflict and signaled his willingness to engage in a direct confrontation. The subsequent announcement that he would pay for the next funeral further escalated the situation, demonstrating a callous disregard for the well-being of others. The commentary on the public perception of Q50, the online exaltation of his persona, and the portrayal of him as a dangerous killer, further fueled the anger of those seeking to challenge his narrative. The individuals watching online seemed determined to prove that his online persona didn't align with reality. The final act of defiance, the attempts to connect with and challenge Q50 online, while simultaneously projecting an image of toughness and defiance, demonstrates the willingness of the St. Louis community to actively confront his actions. The reference to the chain around the neck, the expression of readiness to engage, and the declaration of being chilled, all serve to portray an image of unwavering determination. The ultimate message, that the community would not tolerate disrespect and that Q50's actions would have consequences, resonated throughout the online sphere. It serves as a stark reminder that the internet, while offering a platform for expression, also carries significant risks and potential for real-world repercussions. The situation underscores the importance of responsible online behavior, the potential for digital bravado to escalate into physical confrontation, and the power of a community united in defense of its values and reputation. The escalating digital defiance from St. Louis had initially simmered beneath the surface of Q50's online persona, a digital flexing of bravado and increasingly hostile rhetoric. The online exaltation, the almost cult-like devotion of some viewers who championed his image as a dangerous figure, only
Like recording a diss track, dissing Q50's homie, Lil Jeff. We all know Lil Jeff.
fueled the fire. It was a perverse spectacle, a young man cultivating a reputation built on intimidation and boasts, while a community felt compelled to challenge that narrative. The attempts to connect with Q50 online, to push back against his pronouncements and taunts weren't simply disagreements, they were acts of resistance, a declaration that St. Louis wouldn't be intimidated by online posturing. The imagery, the symbolic chain around the neck, representing restraint, the readiness to engage, and the nonchalant declaration of being chilled, painted a picture of unwavering determination, a refusal to back down. The underlying message was clear: disrespect wouldn't be tolerated, and actions, regardless of how seemingly virtual, carried real-world consequences. The internet, as it so often does, had blurred the lines between the digital and physical realms, highlighting the inherent risks of online expression and the potential for digital bravado to quickly spiral into tangible conflict. It wasn't just about words anymore. It was about reputation, community, and the defense of deeply held values. The digital posturing intensified, escalating the tensions to a point where the virtual challenge began to feel undeniably real. Q50, emboldened by the attention and the perception of power, continued to provoke, sending what he described as threats, digital missiles aimed at individuals online. The specific nature of these threats, referring to sending people to their deceased grandmothers, was particularly disturbing, pushing beyond the boundaries of acceptable online interaction. The bizarre dynamic that followed was almost surreal. Individuals, seemingly terrified by the threats, publicly apologizing and pleading for Q50 to refrain from harm, creating a spectacle of fear and submission. This, in turn, only served to inflate Q50's ego, solidifying his self-image as an untouchable figure, the biggest, baddest ever. However, beneath the surface of Q50's digital dominance, a countercurrent was building within the St. Louis community. Individuals weren't convinced by the online persona. They saw it as a facade, a desperate attempt to mask insecurity and vulnerability. They wanted to prove that Q50 wasn't as invincible as he portrayed himself to be. A collective sentiment arose: he's not tougher than us. We want the clout for being tough too. This wasn't about mimicking Q50's tactics. It was about reclaiming a sense of local pride and demonstrating that St. Louis wouldn't be intimidated by an online persona. Q50's subsequent actions only served to intensify the situation. His open declaration of location, a blatant disregard for personal safety, seemed almost calculated to provoke a response. Announcing his presence on August 16th, promising to be at a concert and an after-party, was a deliberate flaunting of his whereabouts, essentially painting a target on his back. The arrogance was palpable, almost begging for a confrontation. It was a risky move, one that ultimately backfired spectacularly. The aftermath was swift and brutal. While at the after-party, a gathering of people associated with Q50 were ambushed, a black truck becoming the focal point of a sudden, violent attack. The video evidence, readily available online, depicted a chaotic scene of gunfire, a stark contrast to the carefully constructed image of invincibility that Q50 had cultivated. The immediate fallout was one of shock and disbelief, for individuals were reportedly in critical condition, a direct consequence of the escalation of the online feud. Remarkably, Q50 himself, according to early reports, had escaped with minor injuries, described as a graze from a bullet. This detail, crucial to the narrative, was quickly obscured by a series of denials and obfuscations from his team. The attempts to downplay the incident were clumsy and unconvincing. The claim that Q50 hadn't been shot, a desperate attempt to maintain the illusion of invulnerability, was contradicted by the widespread reports of his injuries. Remo, a contact within the community, attempted to verify the situation, reaching out to Q50's team and receiving assurances that he was fine, that he wasn't in critical condition, and that he hadn't been directly hit. This information, while seemingly reassuring, only served to fuel speculation and suspicion when considering the severity of the injuries sustained by his associates. The hypocrisy was glaring. While his friends and colleagues fought for their lives in hospital,
Q is already like claiming credit for this. Okay. So he reposted, like the clip of Bloodhound Q50 being shot in St. Louis, and he sent the laughing emojis. Now, Lil Dre, right, the Chicago dude with the St. Louis plug, he then shouted out a lot of Instagram pages and says, "I love y'all on two grave. Y'all stood on everything y'all told me. I got something for y'all." So he is now admitting that, yo, these are the dudes who are responsible for Q50 and his team being shot in St. Louis. And also,
Q50 was posting on Instagram, seemingly unfazed, quoting lyrics about avoiding the same fate as Chris Wallace and declaring a strict in or out policy, dismissing any questioning of his actions. The situation quickly spiraled into a chaotic web of claims, counterclaims, and accusations. A YouTube content creator, known for his commentary on rap culture, detailed the events, highlighting the conflicting narratives and the palpable tension within the community. CTS Lil Wick, a figure within the scene, publicly claimed responsibility for the shooting, punctuating his statement with laughing emojis, a chilling display of defiance. Lil Dre, a Chicago-based figure with connections to St. Louis, further implicated Q50's team, showering individuals with praise and promising a reward for their actions, solidifying the narrative of a coordinated attack. A chorus of voices emerged, proclaiming the involvement of 95th Boys from Chicago, adding another layer of complexity to the unfolding drama. The content creator himself expressed bewilderment at the unfolding events, questioning whether those involved were genuinely foolish or calculating geniuses. The possibility that the claims of responsibility were a deliberate smokescreen couldn't be dismissed, a tactic designed to mislead investigators and further muddy the waters. However, regardless of the intent, the actions were undeniably reckless, potentially attracting unwanted attention from law enforcement and jeopardizing the future of those involved. The ramifications extended beyond the immediate danger. Involvement in such incidents could severely impact career prospects and limit opportunities to perform at venues, a consequence vividly illustrated by the struggles faced by rappers like 6ix9ine and Pop Smoke. Even seemingly minor involvement could have lasting repercussions, a stark reminder of the precariousness of a career built on public image and performance. The incident highlighted a deeply unsettling truth. The line between online persona and real-world consequences had become dangerously blurred, the potential for digital bravado to escalate into tangible violence all too real. The pursuit of clout, the desire for recognition, had led to a situation where lives were put at risk, and the future of those involved hung precariously in the balance. The internet, once a platform for connection and expression, had become a breeding ground for conflict, a digital battlefield where reputations and lives were collateral damage. The anonymity offered by the digital sphere, the very foundation upon which these events seemed to unfold, now felt less like a shield and more like a precarious illusion. The St. Louis incident, the attack on the Q50 Bloodhound, served as a stark illustration of this erosion of boundaries. It wasn't simply about a physical altercation. It was a manifestation of the escalating conflict born within the echo chambers of online culture. The details remained fragmented, a collage of leaked images and whispered accounts circulating across various platforms. Yet the underlying narrative, the targeted aggression, the swift and brutal execution, resonated with a chilling familiarity. This wasn't spontaneous. It felt orchestrated, a culmination of simmering tensions brought to a violent head. The unsettling truth was that the lines between the Bloodhound's carefully constructed online persona and the reality of his existence had become increasingly blurred. He had cultivated a brand, a reputation built on displays of bravado and a carefully curated image of dominance. This digital facade, intended to generate attention and garner support, had inadvertently created a target. The very qualities he championed, fearlessness, defiance, a disregard for consequence, had become invitations for those seeking to challenge him, to prove their own worth through acts of aggression. It was a dangerous feedback loop, a self-perpetuating cycle of escalation. The question lingered: who were these enemies? Were they rival content creators, jealous of the Bloodhound's success? Were they disgruntled former associates, seeking revenge for perceived slights? Or were they simply individuals drawn to the spectacle of violence, eager to participate in the drama unfolding online? The lack of clear answers only served to amplify the sense of unease. The incident wasn't just about the Bloodhound. It was about the vulnerability inherent in the digital age, the precariousness of reputation, and the ease with which online personas could be weaponized. The concept of clout, the desire for recognition above all else.
Window with that 60, boy. Need that. Come on.
Everything he's saying is
had become a pervasive and destructive force. It drove individuals to engage in increasingly reckless behavior, pushing boundaries and disregarding the potential consequences. The pursuit of viral moments, the relentless quest for likes and shares, had fostered a culture of performative aggression. The St. Louis attack was a gruesome testament to the dangers of this obsession, a stark reminder that online bravado could have devastating real-world consequences. This wasn't merely about attention. It was about the warped sense of validation derived from inflicting pain, both emotional and physical. The comparison to the struggles faced by rappers like 6ix9ine and Pop Smoke served as a grim parallel. Their careers, built on the foundations of public image and performance, were derailed by legal troubles and, in Pop Smoke's case, tragically ended by violence. Their stories highlighted the fragility of fame and the ease with which a single misstep could unravel a carefully constructed career. The Bloodhound situation was eerily similar. The attack, regardless of the intent behind it, threatened to destroy everything he had built, leaving him facing legal repercussions, professional setbacks, and the potential loss of his online community. The fragmented message circulating online spoke volumes. It was a whispered confirmation, a cryptic acknowledgement of the attack's occurrence. It wasn't an attempt to claim responsibility, but rather a testament to the pervasive influence of the incident, the way it had permeated every corner of the digital landscape. Even those not directly involved felt compelled to acknowledge its existence, contributing to the overall sense of unease and apprehension. The digital battlefield had become a place where reputations were currency, and lives were collateral damage. The anonymity afforded by the internet was often mistaken for immunity, a false sense of protection that emboldened individuals to engage in behavior they might otherwise avoid. The St. Louis attack shattered this illusion, exposing the vulnerability inherent in the digital age. The repercussions extended far beyond the immediate physical harm inflicted on the Bloodhound. They threatened to erode the trust and sense of safety that underpinned the online community as a whole. The questions surrounding the motivation behind the attack remained frustratingly unanswered. Was it a deliberate attempt to silence the Bloodhound, to eliminate a competitor in the ruthless game of online dominance? Or was it simply an act of impulsive aggression, fueled by envy and a desire for notoriety? The lack of definitive answers only amplified the sense of uncertainty and apprehension. It served as a chilling reminder that the digital world, despite its perceived anonymity, was not immune to the realities of violence and retribution. The incident underscored the importance of accountability in the digital age. While anonymity could offer a shield, it also created a breeding ground for irresponsibility and malicious behavior. The individuals involved in the St. Louis attack, regardless of their motives, needed to be held accountable for their actions. The online community as a whole needed to reevaluate its relationship with violence and aggression, to find ways to foster a culture of respect and responsibility. The question of whether those involved were genuinely foolish or calculating geniuses lingered. Was this a clumsy attempt at revenge, a desperate grab for attention, or was it a carefully orchestrated plan, designed to inflict maximum damage to the Bloodhound's reputation and career? The possibility of a deliberate smokescreen couldn't be dismissed. Perhaps the attack was a distraction, a way to divert attention from other, more nefarious activities. The true motives remained shrouded in secrecy, adding another layer of complexity to the already perplexing situation. The future remained uncertain. The Bloodhound faced a long and arduous road to recovery, both physically and professionally. The online community had been shaken, its sense of safety shattered. The incident served as a stark warning. The line between online persona and real-world consequences had become dangerously blurred. The pursuit of clout had led to a situation where lives were put at risk, and the future hung precariously in the balance. The echoes of the attack in St. Louis would resonate for a long time, a constant reminder of the fragility of online fame and the potential for digital bravado to escalate into tangible violence. The echoes of the attack in St. Louis would resonate for a long time, a constant reminder of the fragility of online fame and the potential for digital bravado to escalate into tangible violence.
To give you guys a reward, I'm gonna pay for this. And CTS also says, shout out my 95th boys from Chicago, right? Lil Dre. This ish from the rock to the loo. Oh my God, bro. Worst part about it all, I can't even be sure if these dudes are stupid or geniuses. Stupid if you actually did this and you're admitting. Geniuses if you had nothing to do with this and you're claiming it. But also, too, why would you even want the police on your tail like that? Why would you even want to claim something like this publicly? Why would you even want to admit, right, being involved in a mass shooting in public? It's just dumb. But St. Louis people took it seriously because he's popping it. He's telling them folks, or telling the world that is, that he robbed somebody from St. Louis for $60,000. He kept showing his wrist. He said he also took that expensive watch from somebody in St. Louis. He told him he runs St. Louis. All right, that y'all can't ban him from nowhere, that he done robbed y'all. So he's popping it. It pissed off a lot of people in St. Louis outside of CTS Luois. I'm just being real with y'all right now, bro. A lot